At my dad's funeral, my brother whispered something that shattered everything. "She's just here for the money. Dad's going to cut her off." But what I discovered that day changed my life forever and revealed a secret I never saw coming. I hadn't seen him in years. The road to the chapel was slick with rain, and every turn reminded me of the long drives we used to take as kids, when life had felt lighter, easier, before everything became heavy with unspoken words and mistakes. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. The sky was grey and low, hanging over the town like it was morning too. The chapel itself was small, almost too small for the family gathering I had imagined. Its wooden doors were dark, weathered by years of storms, and inside, the smell of polished wood mixed with lilies and the faint, lingering scent of incense. Rain drummed softly against the windows, a quiet, persistent rhythm, like a heartbeat echoing in the solemn silence. I stepped inside and froze for a moment. The room was full, yet the air felt hollow. People whispered in low voices, hands clutching tissues and prayer books. I could see my brother across the room, leaning against the wall, his arms crossed, jaw tight. He hadn't even looked at me yet. His expression was rigid, like a wall that couldn't be scaled, and I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold outside. "She's just here for the money," I heard him mutter to our cousin, loud enough for me to catch. "Dad's going to cut her off. Just watch." I swallowed hard. The words landed like stones in my chest. My heart tightened. Part of me wanted to storm over, to yell, to defend myself. But another part, the part that had learned patience through years of waiting and wondering, told me to breathe, to wait, to see. At the front, my ex sat quietly in the first row. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap, pale fingers laced together. Her hair fell softly around her face, damp from the rain, and she did not move, did not speak, did not smile. She looked calm, almost too calm, like she had been expecting this moment for years. 7 years ago, we had parted with anger and heartbreak, leaving words unsaid, leaving questions that had haunted me in the quiet hours of the night. And now, here she was, sitting like a shadow of memory, fragile yet unbroken. I felt a sudden rush of old emotions, love, regret, sorrow, and anger, all tangled together in a way that made her hard to breathe. The memories came unbidden. I saw her laughing under the summer sun on the farm, the way her hair glinted like gold when the light caught it. I remembered the fights, the nights we had yelled at each other until our throats burned, the lies and misunderstandings that had finally driven us apart. The service began, a low, mournful hymn that wrapped around the room like a cold blanket. People's heads bowed, eyes closed, hands clutching at each other for comfort. I stayed where I was, pretending to pray, pretending to grieve, though part of me felt numb. My father, once so commanding and loud, now lay silent in a polished casket, his face still and calm. The man who had taught me strength and fear now seemed smaller, almost fragile. My brother's eyes never left her. There was something sharp in his gaze, a suspicion, a distrust that made my stomach twist. He had always been protective, yes, but also quick to judge, and I could sense his mind spinning wild stories, accusing her of motives she might never have had. I forced myself to step forward, to approach the front. Each step felt like wading through water, slow and heavy. I could hear the soft whispers of old family friends, the shuffle of feet on wooden floors, the gentle tap of rain still falling outside. Every sound was magnified, every glance felt like a dagger. When I finally reached the front, I hesitated. She looked up for a brief second, her eyes meeting mine. There was a flicker there, recognition, pain, maybe even surprise, but no warmth. I swallowed, forcing myself to speak, but no words came. My father's funeral was supposed to be a place for mourning, for quiet reflection, but instead, it had become a stage for old wounds, for accusations whispered under the guise of grief. I remembered the night 7 years ago, the night everything changed. I had argued with her, fought with my father, and stormed out into the dark, leaving her behind. I had never understood fully why things had gone so wrong. I only knew the feeling of being abandoned and betrayed. And now, standing here, all of that old pain rushed back in a wave so sharp it took my breath away. The service moved on, and I found myself drifting into memories. I saw her again on that small farm, sunlight streaming through the barn windows, dust motes dancing in the light. We had dreamed of a life together, of building something permanent, of love that could survive mistakes. But fear, pride, and misunderstanding had driven a wedge between us. And now, in this quiet chapel with rain tapping against the glass, I realized how much had been left unsaid, how much time had been lost. The preacher's voice was soft, gentle, speaking of my father's life, of his love for the family, of the lessons he had tried to teach. I tried to listen, tried to take it in, but my eyes kept drifting back to her. She seemed so small, so delicate, and yet there was a strength there, a quiet resilience that had survived years without me. I could feel it in her posture, in the way she held herself, in the subtle curve of her lips that didn't quite form a smile but hinted at a lifetime of experiences endured. After the eulogy, the organ played a slow, haunting melody, and people began filing past the casket to pay their respects. I lingered, hesitant, unsure whether to move closer or stay rooted in place. My brother's gaze was on me now, sharp and calculating, as if he was waiting for me to make a mistake. And in that moment, I realized how fragile everything felt. Our father gone, our family fractured, and the woman I had once loved sitting mere feet away, a living reminder of what I had lost and what might never be recovered. The rain outside had stopped, but the chapel remained heavy with the scent of lilies and the weight of memory. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart, trying to make sense of the storm inside me. And as I glanced again at her, I knew one thing for certain. This was not just a funeral. This was a beginning. A reckoning. And whatever had happened 7 years ago was about to resurface, whether I was ready for it or not. After the service, the crowd slowly thinned. People whispered condolences and walked away, leaving the chapel quieter than before. I found myself standing near the back, unsure where to go, unsure what to do. The air was thick with sadness, but also with an unspoken tension. My brother had left abruptly, muttering something to our cousin about keeping an eye on her. And there she was, my ex, sitting still in one of the front pews, staring at the polished floor, her fingers tapping lightly against each other. I approached her cautiously. Each step felt heavy, as if the air itself resisted me moving forward. Her eyes lifted slowly when she sensed me, meeting mine for a brief, loaded moment. There was no smile, not even a flicker, only a calmness that made my chest tighten. "Why are you here?" I asked softly, my voice barely above the quiet hum of the chapel. I didn't want anyone else to hear, didn't want anyone else to judge. She didn't look startled, didn't flinch. "I came for him, not for you," she replied quietly. Her voice was steady, but underneath, I could feel a tension, a weight, something unsaid. I swallowed, memories flooding back like a river breaking its banks. 7 years ago, our lives had been simpler, or so I thought. We had laughed, fought, loved, and hurt each other, but that night had changed everything. I had stormed out, furious and heartbroken, and she had vanished from my life almost entirely. I never understood why she had left so suddenly, why she had walked away instead of talking. The silence she left behind had been deafening. I don't understand," I said, trying to make sense of the sudden confrontation. 7 years, and now you're here. Why now?" Her gaze shifted slightly, toward the empty casket, then back at me. "You think you know everything, don't you?" she said. "But you left without asking the right questions. You assumed. You walked away. You never tried to understand." Her words cut deep, sharper than I expected. For a moment, I wanted to argue, to tell her I had been hurt too, that I had suffered without her. But I couldn't, because I knew, deep down, she was right. I had walked away. I had assumed. And I had never asked. A flashback hit me suddenly, vivid and painful. I saw her standing on the farm that night, rain falling around us, the barn door slamming behind her. My father had been yelling, his voice echoing in the night, and I had felt torn in half. She had tried to explain something important, but I had been too angry, too young to understand. I had stormed off, leaving her in the pouring rain, leaving questions unanswered, leaving her alone. That memory had haunted me in quiet moments, every sleepless night, every lonely morning. "You left," she said softly, reading the storm behind my eyes. "You didn't wait. You didn't ask. You assumed I had betrayed you, that I had gone for reasons that weren't mine. But it wasn't like that." I looked at her, trying to see the truth behind her words. Her face was pale but determined, and there was a fire in her eyes I hadn't seen in years. A fire that told me she had endured, survived, and carried something heavy alone. I wanted to reach out, to touch her, to apologize, but I was frozen. My voice caught in my throat, my hands trembling slightly. "What do you mean?" I finally asked. She hesitated, then let out a small sigh. You think this is about him, about money, about family grudges. But it's not. There's more. There has always been more. You left thinking I was after something I wasn't. You never gave me a chance to explain. And now, you're back, expecting, what? Forgiveness? Understanding? Her words were calm, but they carried an unspoken weight, a truth that she wasn't ready to reveal yet. I felt a chill run down my spine. Something about her tone, about the way she held herself, told me that she was guarding something. A secret, a memory, a pain I had never been part of. I took a step closer, my heart pounding. Then, tell me. I need to know. After all these years, I need to understand. She shook her head slightly, almost imperceptibly. Not yet. Not here. Not now. Her eyes softened briefly, a flicker of the woman I had once loved, before Steele returned. We'll see each other soon. But not now. The tension between us was electric. It wasn't anger, not exactly. It wasn't even grief. It was something deeper, something unspoken that stretched across the years. I wanted to push her, to demand answers, but a strange sense of respect, or maybe fear, held me back. I realized then how much she had changed, how much stronger she had become, and how fragile I had been all these years without realizing it. I remembered our last argument vividly, the words we had shouted, the tears we had shed, the accusations hurled in the heat of emotion. And yet, even in my memory, there were gaps, holes in the story I had never filled. Something about her departure had always felt off. Not wrong, but unfinished. Incomplete. And now, standing in the empty chapel, with the rain having stopped outside and the echoes of mourning still clinging to the walls, I understood that this meeting was only the beginning. You're hiding something, I said finally, my voice low, almost a whisper. She looked at me, unflinching. Maybe I am. Maybe I have been for a long time. But it's not what you think. I didn't betray you, not in the way you imagine. And whatever my reason, it's mine to tell. I wanted to press further, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I nodded slowly. The weight of 7 years pressed down on both of us, heavy with regret, confusion, and memories. I realized that this moment, small and quiet as it was, held more truth than all the arguments, all the misunderstandings, all the anger we had shared. The chapel felt colder now, the sunlight breaking weakly through the clouds outside. My father's casket remained at the front, silent and unyielding, and I felt the strange irony of the moment. Here we were, two people broken by the past, brought together by the end of another life, yet still holding secrets, still carrying grief in ways that no funeral could ever measure. For the first time in years, I felt the old ache in my chest, the ache of love lost, of trust broken, of years stolen by misunderstandings and pride. And I knew, with a quiet certainty, that whatever happened next, whatever she revealed or withheld, would change everything. She stood up then, slowly, deliberately, as if testing the space between us. We'll talk soon, she said again, softer this time, almost gentle. Then she walked toward the door, her steps light, but each one leaving an impression on my heart I couldn't ignore. I watched her go, feeling the weight of the unsaid, the hidden, and the unresolved. And as she disappeared into the rainy street outside, I knew that the calm before the storm had passed, and the real reckoning, the true revelation, was still waiting for me. The days after the funeral passed in a blur. Family members drifted in and out, offering condolences, discussing inheritances, whispering their judgments. But I found myself restless, unable to settle, thinking constantly about her. That calm, unreadable expression, the way she had walked away from me after the chapel, lingered in my mind like smoke I couldn't shake. There was something more. Something she hadn't told me. I decided to go through Dad's old study. It was quiet, untouched since his death. Dust hung in the air, and the faint smell of old paper and polished wood surrounded me. The rain had stopped outside, leaving puddles on the driveway, reflecting the grey sky. My father's desk sat in the center of the room, papers neatly stacked, or at least appearing neat at first glance. I ran my fingers over the polished wood, remembering the countless times I had sat here as a boy, trying to impress him, trying to live up to his impossible expectations. As I searched through drawers, a small stack of letters fell out from between two thick ledgers. My hand shook as I picked them up. Most were addressed to my father, written in her handwriting. My eyes scanned the first one, and I froze. It was short, almost clinical, but the words hit me like a punch. She is not after money. Protect her. She carries what I cannot. Keep her safe. She is my responsibility, and one day, he must know the truth. My heart skipped. I reread the line again and again. She is not after money. Those words, simple as they were, shattered every assumption I had made, every whispered accusation my brother had uttered in that chapel. She hadn't come for Dad's money, or mine, or anything else. She had come for someone, or something, he had asked her to protect. Confusion, anger, and guilt collided in my chest. I remembered her words at the chapel. You think you know everything, but you left without asking the right questions. Now I understood. There was a truth I had never seen, never understood. And she had carried it alone for 7 years. I felt my chest tighten as I went deeper into the drawers. Another letter slipped out, followed by photographs. I picked them up carefully, my hands trembling. And then I saw her and a little girl, smiling in some, shy in others, her eyes bright and innocent. And the dates, the child was 7 years old. 7, the exact time we had been apart. I swallowed hard, feeling the world shift under me. My daughter. A secret I had never known. The pieces fell into place. The night she had disappeared, the sudden coldness between us, the distance that had grown. She hadn't betrayed me. She had protected our daughter. She had carried our child in silence, shielding her from the chaos we had left behind. I felt a wave of emotions crash over me, shame, awe, grief, and a strange, aching love. I had assumed betrayal, assumed greed. But the real betrayal had been mine. The years I had lost, the moments I had missed, the father I should have been. And yet, somehow, she had endured. Somehow, she had survived alone, raising our daughter with courage I could barely comprehend. I didn't hear her come in. A soft cough made me look up, and there she was, standing in the doorway. Her face was calm, almost serene, but her eyes held fire, that same fire I had seen at the chapel. You found it, she said softly, almost a whisper. I didn't know, I stammered. I had no idea. I thought, my words failed. I couldn't explain 7 years of ignorance in a single sentence. She stepped closer, and I noticed the subtle curve of her lips, not a smile, but something gentler, almost sad. You almost lost her, she said quietly, her voice steady but carrying the weight of years. You were blind. You didn't see what was right in front of you. Tears pricked my eyes. I couldn't speak. How could I explain the guilt, the longing, the regret that had built up inside me all these years? I had been so sure of her motives, so sure of her intentions. And now I realized the truth. She had been honest, steadfast, carrying a secret that had required unimaginable strength. I looked down at the photographs in my hands. The little girl's eyes mirrored my own in some ways, the same stubborn curiosity, the same small flare of determination. And I knew, in that moment, that she had the right to hate me, to hold me at a distance, to guard herself as fiercely as she had guarded our daughter. Why didn't you tell me? I finally asked, my voice rough. She shook her head. Because you wouldn't have understood. You would have left again. You did once before, Arslan. I couldn't risk losing her too. I had to protect her, from the world, from your absence, even from you. I felt a sting of shame so sharp it brought tears to my eyes. I had assumed so much. I had judged. I had accused. And she had been right all along. My anger, my grief, my accusations, pale shadows of the truth. She stepped closer, her hand brushing against mine as if testing the water, and for the first time in years, I felt the warmth of connection return. But it wasn't a simple reunion. It was a reckoning. A quiet revenge of sorts, not violent, not cruel, but the kind that cut deeper than anger ever could. She had waited, she had survived, and she had made me see my own mistakes. You've been wrong all this time, she said softly. You assumed I came for money, that I betrayed you. But it was you who lost time, lost moments, lost her. You didn't see, you didn't understand. And now. She let the pause stretch, letting the weight of her words settle. Now you know. And now, you realize that your mistakes almost cost you everything. I nodded slowly, unable to speak, feeling the weight of her truth press into me. I had been cut off, not by my father, not by her, not by fate, but by my own ignorance, my own pride, my own inability to trust. And that realization was more painful than any punishment. Finally, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small pair of shoes, tiny and delicate, holding them out to me. "This is hers," she said, voice soft, almost tender. "She's been waiting for you too, but she doesn't know you yet. And you have to understand, this time, it's not just about you. It's about her. About all of us." I took the shoes in my hands, feeling the reality of what I had lost and what I had yet to regain. The truth hit me like a physical blow. She had endured the hardest parts of life alone, raising our child, protecting her, shielding her from everything I had thought mattered. And she had waited, not for money, not for revenge, but for the chance to reveal the truth at the right time. I looked at her, tears running freely now, and whispered, "I'm sorry. For everything. For leaving. For assuming. For all of it." She smiled then, finally, truly, a small, gentle smile. Not triumphant, not mocking, just a quiet acknowledgement of the pain we had both carried. "You have a lot to make up for," she said softly, "and so do I. But at least now, the truth is out. And that changes everything." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words sink in. The secret she had carried, the years we had lost, the pain and misunderstanding, all of it had led us to this moment. A moment heavy with emotion, revelation, and the quiet, piercing sting of lost time. And as I stood there, holding the tiny shoes, staring at the woman who had once been my world and now held my future in her hands, I realized that the real revenge had been hers all along. Not cruelty, not anger, but truth. The truth that forced me to see my own mistakes, to feel the weight of every lost year, and to confront the reality that I could never take back the past, but I could fight to be part of the future. "You almost lost her," she repeated, softer this time. "But I never left." And in that single, quiet sentence, everything shifted. I had been cut off, blinded, and tested. And now, finally, I could see, fully, the depth of her strength, her love, and her quiet, devastating revenge.